guest is Ken Glazer, Chairman and CEO of Buckingham Properties in Rochester, New York. An architect by trade, a leader in the local real estate market by blood, and a dreamer at heart, Ken Glazer serves as Chairman and CEO for Buckingham Properties, where he balances guiding the company into the future while honoring the legacy of his parents. Ken holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in architecture from Lehigh University and a Master's of Architecture from the University of Illinois at Chicago. He's a LEED certified professional and completed his Certified Commercial Investment Member designation from the CCIM Institute, one of the leading commercial real estate associations in the world. He is certified through the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards and is a member of the American Institute of Architects. Ken was named a 40 under 40 honoree by the Rochester Business Journal in 2013. In 2021, Ken was honored to be named in the city and state's inaugural Western New York Power 100, identifying power players who play a crucial role in and around the cities of Buffalo, Rochester, and Western New York. Early in his career, Ken spent time in New York City, Chicago, and Boston, pursuing his interest in architecture and green building. After returning to Rochester, Ken joined the family business, Buckingham Properties, where he worked alongside his father, Larry Glazer, who I knew as one of Rochester's most respected and leading visionaries. Buckingham Property currently manages more than 80 properties totaling over 10 million square feet in the greater Rochester area. Ken takes a leading role in the development of Buckingham's most prominent development projects, including Tower 280, a $60 million redevelopment project that reimagined the former Midtown Tower in a premier mixed-use destination right in the heart of downtown Rochester. The Tower 280 project received the Award for Excellence in Development from the Urban Land Institute. In his partnerships in the real estate business and recent growth, he's partnered with Mindex Technologies to construct and develop new headquarters and in developing Alex Park neighborhood. Just last year, Buckingham completed 260 East Broad Street in partnership with Butler Till, which is a new 5-story mixed-use building in the heart of downtown Rochester and serves as Butler Till's headquarters and home to 28 luxury apartments. Interesting that Ken is active among numerous local philanthropic and nonprofit organizations. He's currently on the board of the Rochester Downtown Development Corporation, the Strong National Museum of Play, and Nazareth College. He is also the founder of Construction Rochester, a design build competition where teams of architects, engineers, and students create giant sculptures made entirely out of canned food. Is that cool or what? Since its inception, the competition has resulted in 500,000 pounds of food donations to local families in need. Welcome to the show, Ken. Good to see you here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, you know, a really amazing resume of accomplishments, and it demonstrates what the city of Rochester has in terms of entrepreneurial resources and how powerful that can be to a community. So I want to get started right away. Let's just dive right into the questions on. Now, as someone who spent many years as a design professional, I'm sure you had to work in a team environment. Now that you're in a leadership role as a CEO, did you working in your role as a design professional influence how you assemble your team? And if so, how?
Have people on your team that you can talk to and say, hey, what's going on? What happened? And how are we going to fix this? And then I'm really looking for decision makers as a whole. People I trust, people who are willing to kind of put their own name out there and say, hey, this is the right answer and here's why. If they can do that, we can grow with that type of person. So, and as far as the design, well, I'm always in the design realm. It's funny because it's probably my biggest weakness. At least that's what my dad always said, was the architect in me is going to make you love a building more than the deal. Be careful not to fall in love with the architecture because it's dangerous. sometimes.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because in working in a family business, that becomes the biggest challenge, because if you have a slightly different outlook than the original leader did in the family business, and I came from that. I grew up in my father's business, so I get it. I understand that.
Mhm.
And but I've also seen a number of situations where in family businesses, I know a lot of them. There are a lot of them in Rochester, obviously, that. Um, the You don't have to do the same things the same way in order to be successful. So that's why I was interested in knowing how your education in the design part of the industry influences what you're doing today. And I kind of understand what that is. So getting then to the next part of that question, pretty much a follow-up to that, is in the early years in your career, you're working for somebody else, of course, So I'm sure there were clients, colleagues, or even leadership who tried to get you to go along with things that you disagreed with. So how did you deal with that?
That's a good question. So I'm trying to think. Probably this is a really fundamental shift in my mindset. There was a moment in my life where my first real client was my parents, and they asked me to build a screened-in porch, and I came up with this concept to build them a gazebo with a bridge, and I was working out of town, so I drew it all up. My dad loved it. Everything's great. He starts construction. I'm living on the West Coast at the time, and I come back, and he cut the bridge in half. There's supposed to be all these cedar shakes on it. He put drive it on there. The inside was supposed to be this beautiful, white, I don't know if it was white pine or something, but he did all, drywall and painted the whole thing like a Kermit green. And I came back and I was so upset with him. How could he do that to me? This is my design. I worked so hard on this. And I threw kind of a tantrum a little bit, like an 8-year-old does. And at the end of it, my dad looked at me and he goes, in only the way he can do, are you done yet? And I go, yes. And he goes, good, because it's my house and it's my money and I'm going to do it the way I want. And I went, oh. And that's where I kind of understood what an architect's role really is. It's not about what I want. It's about getting the clients happy with what they need. They're going to one paying for it. They're going to one live in it. And as much as you think the best answer, that doesn't mean it's what everybody else wants. So I learned really quickly right then from my dad to sort of pull my own opinions aside when I need to and sort of say, okay, what's really the best answer? How to listen to your client and say, all right, that's what they want to do. Okay, I'll draw it up that way. That's what you're paying me to do. And as much as I want it to look like the Taj Mahal, it's just not going to happen. So that was a really good lesson for me about how to deal with the fact that not everybody likes what you design. It doesn't always fit in the budget. And you have to kind of put your own personal taste, on the side sometimes. And as an architect, we all have big egos and we think we got the answer, but you have to kind of learn how to, step aside from that.
Well, you have to understand your market, and you obviously do. And that was kind of an epiphany for you. Your dad taught you a very good lesson right out of the box, and it came at an appropriate time. So I could see him doing that.
Yeah.
I could see him doing that in the right way as well. So it was meaningful. We call it, every builder has his dream, and then all of a sudden the dreams have to become reality. So
Right.
you got to know your market. That's a great answer. Thank you. But again, now that leads to the next part, because now that you're the leader of a successful American business, how are things different today than they were, let's just say, 10 years ago? Not going back to the days you started in the business, but just 10 years ago. How are they different? And what have you done to adjust to that?
Well, 10 years ago, I had just started at Buckingham. So up until then, I was strictly an architect. And I didn't really understand the business of real estate the way I do now. Um, I think back then there was much more, just as in a general, that the landlord, the owners, sort of had the space and the tenant would build it out. Now the tenants are saying, no, no, I want you to pay for that. If you want me to sign on lease, I want you to put up the money to do this, and we'll pay it back in the lease. So that's one of the really big things that we've noticed is that every tenant seems to think that we should be spending our money and not their money, which makes it a little more difficult because we're taking a bigger risk. So, that's a minor thing, I guess. But, and today, obviously, the office market is very different. It's still not sure which way it's going. So I think, the world is such uncertainty going on right now that it's really hard to plan too far ahead thinking that this is going to stay this way or it's not going to stay.
Well, your answer lends itself, and you touch on the concept of finance. And so essentially your suggestion here is that when you entered the business 10 years ago, you were expected to finance a much different product. And now they're asking you, your customer, your market is asking you to provide the financing for the completion of the space. And for our viewers, that's focusing in on the fact that you're very heavily committed to commercial real estate development, which provides space for tenants, and then they kind of adapt into whatever their needs are. So you have to serve them one way or the other. But the question that you answered was with the answer of finances changed a little bit. Now that I brought you back to 10 years, but you brought up the fact that in the last couple of years, even the market has changed as a result of, COVID. And so let's just talk briefly. I don't want to get locked up in too much, but how have you had to make those adjustments, relative to this extraordinary, I've been in it 50 years and I've never seen anything like this in my life. And we've been through a few ups and downs. So how have you made that adjustment in adapting to this global pandemic, and how has it affected your business there?
Well, we were fortunate enough to have a pretty diverse portfolio, so we were able to weather this pretty well. Where we're seeing it the most is probably in just the fact that construction costs are going up and the lead times are very indefinite. So we don't want to put a due date down because we're going to get caught and it's not even in our control. Elevator issues, things like that you really have no control over, is making it really hard to develop new product, a new property, build a building. In Rochester, unfortunately, our lease rates, are pretty steady. But when you add 20% more of cost to the building, well, you're not making up that 20% on your lease rate. So there are deals that we would have done 2-3 years ago that suddenly we can't do. It just doesn't make sense. Right. So you get kind of in a stalemate where no one wants to pay, but we're there and we're ready to go. And somehow you got to figure out how to get through that and get it done, because both parties want it done, but no one wants to pay that extra freight.
Well, that brings us to the next issue then. And I understand your training and your commitment to your training and education, knowing that you focused a lot on green building and you're a LEED certified professional and you're concerned about those issues, raises a different question altogether. As an owner, CEO leading, young people into the future, you now have to juggle that new dynamic of costs increasing for reasons way beyond your control, and then having to push green and sustainable building practices, which generally initially cost more money to implement into the process. So do you feel like you're compromising some of your principles when you jump into it, into a project today and have to sacrifice some things as a result of that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you look at it. Yeah, I think on a new build, you build a really nice green building, the benefit goes to the tenant, not necessarily the owner. So all those energy savings, well, they're paying the energy bills, not the owner. So somehow you have to kind of factor that in up front. But, on the green side, the way I really look at it is where the real savings is by rehabbing a building. And that energy that takes to build a new building versus saving an old building, that to me is the greenest thing you can do, is to not, take an old building, repurpose it. That in itself is so much better than getting like a few solar panels on the wall or on the roof. It's people seem to forget that is really, and that's what Rochester has a lot of. We got a lot of empty buildings that need some new love and a new purpose. And if we keep doing that, to me, that's sustainable design at its best. Not clearing out a green field, not knocking down a building and building a new, prettier one above it. It's working with what you have and saying, okay, well, the brick's ready there, the wires are ready there, the concrete's ready poured. Why don't we try to use that, save all that, and then, put some lipstick on the pig and make it work.
Amen. My family was in the recycling business nearly 100 years ago. I cleaned brick for a penny a piece. We pulled nails out of lumber and straightened them and put them into the jar. So I get that, and I give you a lot of credit for understanding that concept. Your father gave you a head start on that because he was one of the people that recognized how important that was. So that's great. All right. So I think our viewers see what you've done in business, but let's talk a little bit about Ken when Ken's not working, which is probably not very much, and I know how that works. So you're kind of working and you're doing other things at the same time. So I get it. So we're going to do a little shotgun here. Okay. And short answers right now. We'll talk about how about this? Coffee or tea?
Neither.
Neither.
Diet Coke.
Coke?
Like a Diet Pepsi.
Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee or tea, but I get my
right.
caffeine from a nice morning soda.
All right. I'm good with that. All right. Whiskey or wine?
Whiskey.
All right. Now, here's the follow-up to whiskey. Is it whiskey, scotch, rye, or bourbon?
It'd be rum.
Oh, all right. Rum. All right.
So
I got it. So rum and maybe Diet Coke?
Rum and regular Coke. Yeah. Rum and Coke's my go-to drink. Yeah.
All right. Rum and Coke. I like that. Pasta or rice?
Pasta.
Spaghetti or ziti?
Ziti.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite? That's another layer. What's your favorite go-to pasta house in Rochester right now? And I don't want you to hurt anybody's feelings. So if you got 2 or 3, that's fine. Who are they?
Well, as far as pastas, I got to go with Monroe's, even though they're not really a pasta house. The chicken French, the chicken parm, I just love it there. It's great. The best.
That's good to know. All right. Guitar or piano?
I think I always wanted to play piano, but I love just listening to guitar playing.
Okay. Who's your favorite guitar player?
Jerry Garcia. Easily.
Okay.
Yeah, he's my guy.
All right. I get that. All right. As the architect, brick or stone?
Stone.
Maple or oak?
Maple.
Interesting. All right, finally, we're going to talk football. And I won't bring up the Bills. I won't bring up the Bills game because
I'm still not sleeping right since the game. I gotta tell you,
it was the greatest game ever.
Mm.
I can't imagine anything going. I can't remember a better game. But here's my question: offense or defense?
Oh, defense.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm an old football player, and I love defense. I played both, but defense, there was nothing like hitting someone and getting a good tackle on.
Okay, so you're going to like this story then. You and I have talked a little bit Buffalo Bills. One of my very close friends out here, where I am in Arizona, is the Buffalo Bills 1971 first round draft pick, the first pick for the Bills, J.D. Hill, wide receiver. He was an all-pro with ASU. 4 years all pro or not all pro, but college, all American. So his rookie year, and I know you went to school in Chicago, so you'll appreciate this. His rookie year, he caught a pass, rolled out of bounds, was on his back out of bounds on the Chicago sideline. And he looked straight up, and right up above him was Walter Payton and Dick Butkus looking down at him. Now he's thinking that he puts his hand up, thinking that they were going to help him get up off the sideline, off his back. Well, Dick Butkus put his foot on his chest and looked at him and said, "Welcome to the NFL, rookie." And that was it. So Buffalo got some love back in Chicago 50 years ago or so. So anyway, well, you know what, Ken, this has been a great discussion today. We'd love to ask you to come back and talk a little bit more about your business. So if you don't mind, we'd like to invite you back again if you think you'd like to do that. So
love to, anytime.
Well,
Always
that's
like
great.
these chats.
Listen, I know the weather's probably very cold there today, so all I'm going to say is
snowing and 20 degrees. It's just another day in Rochester.
Another day in Rochester, New York. Well, I'm going to tell you, my hometown, Rochester, New York, but I got to tell you, enjoy my weather today, okay? And we'll talk to you again. Thanks an awful lot, Ken.
Thanks, Lou. Good talking to you.
Yeah.
All right.